you are not about to gaslight Christ.
I'm not.
Stop, Nick.
I'm not.
Because you grew up in a household
in me lets me know that I am anointed.
What is Christ? You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.
I am anointed.
You took that.
When I walk in a room,
went overboard.
I am a light.
You cannot gaslight Jesus Christ because he told you that, and now you're telling him because he told you that.
I am all these things.
You're the king, and you missed the narcissism. No, narcissism. Y'all, he just gaslight Christ and said the reason why it's okay for him to be narcissistic. Hold on, Nick. Okay. He gaslight Christ and said because he was taught he can do all things through Christ that strengthens him.
Absolutely.
Is the reason why everything can be about him. Is the reason why everything can be world revolving around him and no one else matters.
It sounds like somebody who knows of God, but doesn't know God, doesn't know him, doesn't know what that relational aspect looks like. And that's what I pray he comes to know, because that's honestly the only thing that's going to heal him. That's the only thing that's going to help him. That's the only thing that's going to help him is God, is Jesus Christ. All right, y'all. Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is back on Counsel Culture. This time, she wasted absolutely no time confronting Nicholas Cannon, specifically as it relates to his view of Jesus Christ. And I thought that this was extremely thought-provoking. Y'all see, I'm trying to use different words. I'm trying to use different words than interesting. I pulled out thought-provoking. Y'all should be proud of me. All right, let's get to it. Let's waste no time. Let's get to it.
We shift.
So I want to go to the other end of the spectrum, because I have been diagnosed with a narcissistic.
You've been clinically diagnosed with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But when I did get diagnosed with it, because I have no problem with it, it's a spectrum. You know what I mean? And I think even it starts off with like confidence, overconfident, arrogance, and then that's when you step into the space of narcissism. And in that, there's markers. And when someone has like extreme narcissistic behavior disorder, it has things like the lack of empathy, rage, all of those things. I don't have those. Like
I was just going to ask you, how many of those symptoms do you identify with?
Yeah. Like I identify with all of them except for those two.
Except for the rage and the...
Yeah, I have no rage, and I have, I'm very empathetic. And, I believe like that's just nature. You know what I mean? Like my grandmother taught me.
Learn behavior for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I probably, if I was a kid where that was fed, I probably...
So where at do you see yourself as narcissistic?
Well, I'll give you a few things, because I even want to get back to even when you were talking about high functioning and low functioning and regulating one's emotions. Like, I've never experienced that because I'm such a runner and have abandonment issues and stuff that when conflict approaches, like I'm a Libra, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like I'll just disappear. That's the way you will see me not regulating my emotions, because I just don't deal with it.
You sabotage.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
I'm out.
I'm out of here.
So all the other things when it comes to narcissism.
But that is narcissism.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Okay,
like,
got it.
What is it? Self?
Absorbed?
Not self-absorbed, but self-importance, where I believe that, I...
Self-centered, self-absorbed.
Because I grew up in a...
So your self-care is on steroids.
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian household where I could do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Right.
I am a mover, I'm a shaker, I'm more than a conqueror.
Nick, I'm about to go there.
But I'm just telling you,
not about to gaslight Christ.
I'm not.
Stop, Nick.
I'm not.
Because you grew up in a household
in me lets me know that I am anointed.
You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.
I am anointed.
You took that.
When I walk in a room,
went overboard.
I am a light.
You cannot gaslight Jesus Christ because he told you that, and now you're telling him because he told you that.
I am all these things.
You're the king, and you missed the narcissism. No,
abundance.
No, you cannot do that. No,
I'm doing it. I'm owning it. I'm walking.
Don't gaslight him
in the kingdom that I am.
Christ gave his life. That's the most unselfish thing you can do.
100%.
So you cannot.
And I would give my life for mine.
You cannot.
I would die on the cross for my kids.
Narcissism, whose extreme selfishness and self-centered. Not saying that's what you are, but that's narcissism. And Christ, who said I could do all things through him.
There's a self-importance in me. There is. I believe I am not ordinary. I am extraordinary. I am the head and not the tail.
So why did you just gaslight Christ? Answer that question.
I'm telling you. You said I did that. I'm quoting scripture.
Y'all, he just gaslight Christ and said the reason why it's okay for him to be narcissistic. Hold on, Nick. Okay. He gaslight Christ and said because he was taught he can do all things through Christ that strengthens him.
Absolutely.
Is the reason why everything can be about him. Is the reason why everything can be world revolving around him and no one else matters. That is not the message. I never said
no one else matters. You put words in my mouth.
That is not what Christ has said. And y'all don't allow him to gaslight Christ with that, okay?
We'll take. I apologize if you believe I have gaslit Christ, because that is not what I'm doing. I'm talking about how I was raised
and what you were
and
taught.
my understanding of my self-importance.
So let me ask you this: how do you think you took? Now we're being serious. How do you think you took that learned behavior, right? I can do all things through Christ, meaning I'm powerful. Yeah. I can do things. I should believe in myself. I should have a belief that's as big as my God. I get that.
Yeah.
How did you take that and catastrophize or expand to a level that you deem yourself, because you said you see it as narcissism. And really quick, the reason why I asked you, do you deem yourself or feel or see yourself as narcissistic, is because a lot of folks have diagnosis that they are not. So just because they're diagnosed with it, they learn what it is. You obviously research it because you know it well, and they start to identify and clothe themselves with those symptoms when they are not that. So there's overdiagnosis and underdiagnosis. And in our community, particularly, I like to make sure that we are not labeled with things that we may have a symptom of, but we are not the actual diagnosis of. Because I have a lot of clients who have been labeled as depression or narcissistic or anxiety disorder when they learned in the household how to be depressed, what anxiety looks like on their parents. But they're adults, and if they unlearn that behavior, that's not who they are at their core. I'm not saying that you're not narcissistic. I'm just saying I like to check in with that to make sure, do you really see yourself as that? Or like you just said in the household, did you learn through Christ you can do all things because you have the same power he has? So is it a learned behavior, or is it how you're built? Is it really you?
You're teaching you, because it's funny that you say that, because I have, obviously I've been attempting to do the work on myself and have a lot of therapists and people who speak into me, and it's so interesting because there are a group of therapists that are like, oh no, you check all the boxes, you 7 out of 10, so we're gonna go with that. And then I have others that's like, no, you're not narcissistic at all. You may have some tendencies, you may have some behavior.
I don't have necessarily anything against therapists and seeking solutions from mental health professionals in order to help you deal with the problems that you're facing in your life. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is dumping so much of your time and your energy and your resources into these individuals for help, as opposed to just taking that same time and energy and resource and giving it to God and watching what he can do with it and how he can transform you and how he can heal you in a miraculous way. And I just wish more people had the faith to go to God with their problems, as opposed to trying all of these worldly solutions and then they go to God. Some people never get to God, unfortunately. But what tends to happen is you try to take matters into your own hands. You try to do what you can do to help yourself, to self-help, which sometimes manifests in the way of, smoking or drinking or drug abuse or sex abuse or anything like that. And then those things don't work. And then you go to the professionals, which, like I said, I don't have a problem with them necessarily. You go to these people and you pour out, your emotions, you pour out your heart, you invest your time and your energy and your resources into these people. And then you still feel like there's something missing. And then you go to God. It's like, bro, can we just have faith to just go to God first and give it to him? And maybe when you go to God, maybe he says, you know what? It might be helpful if you sat down with a Christian therapist that could help you unpack some of the trauma that you have. Maybe that's what the recommendation that comes from God, who is the healer. But to go to all these people first and then go to God last, or never even go to God, is crazy. Also, another thing I want to say, and I don't want to pick on Nick too much because, let me turn my phone off. Something I just realized, which I don't know why it took me so long to realize this. I knew it, but sometimes when I react to stuff, I say the first thing that comes out of my mouth without really, thinking. But something that I realized is that, Nick's reality is completely different than 98.9% of the people on this planet. Like, he's living a completely different reality. Multi-millionaire, like, he's experienced dang near every pleasure that the world has to offer. He's probably been tempted in every way possible. Well, not every way possible, but he's probably been tempted to a level where most people have not experienced temptation, especially being in Hollywood, especially having all these, external and internal pressures from his industry. And like, he's living a reality that most people don't even know and will never know. And with that, it changes you. It changes you. You become a different person. You see the world through a different lens, and it clouds your vision. And this is like a similar conversation that I was talking about with the Candace Owens conversation, that when he sat down with Candace Owens, it clouds your vision. So it's not surprising that, you know, he can recall scripture from his childhood that he learned and that he studied during his childhood, and apply that scripture to himself out of context, which many of us do, which I myself have done, you know. But it gets dangerous when you completely abandon the context of those scriptures and just completely make it your own to fit your own reality, and then you run with it. And I feel like that's kind of what's been happening with Nick, because as I said before, I think he knows the Bible. He knows a lot of different religions, but for whatever reason, he hasn't taken that knowledge and just went straight to God and really just poured out his heart. Or maybe he has, I don't know, but just from the conversations that he's having and what he's saying and what he's communicating, it doesn't sound like somebody, it sounds like somebody who knows of God, but doesn't know God, doesn't know him, doesn't know what that relational aspect looks like. And that's what I pray he comes to know, because that's honestly the only thing that's going to heal him. That's the only thing that's going to help him. That's the only thing that's going to help him is God, is Jesus Christ.
But all of those are learned, and you can, you know, through this process, we can work through it. And then ultimately what everyone says is that I can get to that high functioning space with the willingness to do the work, with the openness. And as we know, the first thing is acceptance
100%.
of saying like, okay, yeah, I have to, really, and taking accountability.
But acceptance of the reality, not your perception. A lot of people have a disconnect between perception, their perception, and reality.
Right.
What we do as professionals, psychology experts, mental health professionals, we bridge that gap for you so that we get you into seeing the reality of who you are, not to judge you, but to say, does this reality serve you? Is this reality better than your perception of you? Because your perception was formed by your experiences. So maybe your perception is what's eclipsing you and keeping you from that high functioning or from that healthy self. Or maybe your perception has worked as a protectant of your reality because your reality is just too bad for you to live in or to look at. And so we have to look at, as a professional who's seasoned, you look at both. And until you assess both, and you and the client equally together as a team, figure out which one is it.
Right.
Because as an expert doesn't mean that I have the right to completely project onto you my expertise. I cannot expert you without you being all the way in this with me. That's not how it works. So I can't just tell you. That's why I said, do you feel? And when I talk to my clients, I say, listen, do you feel depressed? Which one of these things do you identify with?
Right.
Right? Let's see where your reality is based on your perception.
Right.
So that they can live in that and they understand who they are.
Right.
Because remember, we have to be in acceptance and surrender to how we're really built and how people are really built. Not in what we choose to believe.
Right.
Because just like that's tea. If I said, Nick, that's tea, and there's a tea bag in it really is, and you keep saying, Doc, no, you know, this is Diet Coke.
Right.
But you keep it in your hand. As long as you keep it in your hand, it can be Diet Coke.
For me.
I think we have to come to to kind of piggyback off of what she was saying. I think we have to come to the reality that we're human beings, that we're flawed human beings, that we're sinful human beings. And we need to go back to the one that created us, because that is where true healing is found, and that is solely where true healing is found. That is it. Because at the end of the day, this is temporary. This flesh is temporary. But we have the chance to have life eternally through Jesus Christ. So why would you not get to know him while you're on earth? Y'all got to let me know what y'all think, man. Y'all got to let me know what y'all think. I know he was kind of joking when he said that comment. But, you know, there is always some truth in comedy. More than we know, oftentimes. Let me know what y'all think. Get in my comments, like this video. I'm out, y'all.